दिल्ली के फिकी ऑडिटोरियम में 2 जुलाई को इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय के तत्वावधान में 7वां वार्षिक प्रोफेसर जी राम रेड्डी यादगार अभिभाषण समारोह का आयोजन हुआ। कनेक्टिविटी थ्रू स्पेस, अ बून फॉर डेवलपिंग इंडिया, इस विषय पर विशिष्ट वक्ता के रूप में डॉक्टर के कस्तूरी रंगन ने अपने उद्गार प्रकट किए।
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the 7th annual Professor G. Ram Reddy Lecture. As we all know, this lecture series has been instituted to commemorate the ideals and vision of the colossal among educationists, Professor G. Ram Reddy, founder, Vice Chancellor of AP Open University, Indira Gandhi Open University, Vice President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Chairperson University Grants Commission, and more importantly, a visionary. He foresaw the potential of distance education at a time when most were skeptical about it. His ideas have placed us squarely in the midst of the boom in information technology, and it is befitting that today, when IGNOU is making rapid strides in the use of education technology, information technology to reach the unreached, we have none other than another colossus, Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, Chairperson, ISRO, to deliver this address. We are also very fortunate to have amongst us the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Shri Vijay Kapoor, who has kindly consented to deliver the presidential remarks. On the right of Dr. Kasturi Rangan is Dr. Pant, who is the Pro Vice Chancellor of IGNOU. To the left of Dr. Kapoor, Mr. Kapoor is Dr. Garg, who is also Pro Vice Chancellor IGNOU, and seated to his left is Professor Jagannathan, Director, School of Humanities. Dr. Kasturi Rangan took his Bachelor of Science with Honours and Masters of Science degrees in Physics from Bombay University and received his doctorate at the Physical Research Laboratory, Ahmedabad. Working as the chairperson of ISRO, he oversaw the activities related to the development of new generation spacecrafts in INSAT-2, IRIS-1A and 1B, PSLV and GSLV. The space program has witnessed several major milestones during his tenure. He is also the president of Indian Academy of Sciences and general president of the Indian Science Congress. He is a member of several important scientific academies, both within India and abroad. We are indeed fortunate, sir, that you have kindly consented to give the 7th Professor Ram Reddy Memorial Lecture on Connectivity Through Space, a Boon for Developing India. Dr. Kasturi Rangan ji.
I deem it a proud privilege and honor to deliver the 7th annual Professor G. Ram Reddy Memorial Lecture. I would like to express my grateful thanks to the Vice Chancellor and other members of the faculty for doing this honor to me. I'm very happy to see Your Excellency Sri Vijay Kapoor ji. I had the occasion of working with him when he was associated with our defense program. In fact, few people know that he initiated some very important steps in productionization of space hardware in some of the very big public sector institutions in this country. And I'm happy to say that many of them today are fructifying and feeding to the Indian space program. I'm extremely happy that I have again the privilege of meeting you and having you in this very important forum. Few people in modern India have contributed more to the process of taking education to the doorsteps than Professor G. Ram Reddy, who has the unique distinction of not only heading the apex body in the conventional higher education, but also of founding two major open universities. Of course, this has been already said. He's well known, but I think it's very important to emphasize this aspect of Professor Ram Reddy's contribution to facilitate education, not only in the formal sense, but also to bring it to the maximum possible number of Indians at their doorsteps. Professor Ram Reddy's pioneering work further extends to all-rounded support and promotion of the open education system in the country and giving it its international prestige and recognition. He has been a leading figure in the field of education, and as the Vice Chancellor of 3 universities in India, Vice President of the Commonwealth Learning and President of the Association of the Indian Universities and Chairman of UGC, he played a vital role in strengthening and expanding the educational system in the country. A glance at the career graph of Professor Ram Reddy very clearly shows that his contribution has been both fundamental and extensive. What I propose to do in my lecture today is to elaborate certain aspects of the current elements of the Indian space program and to see where we are in the context of use of the space systems for national development, and to conduct experiments in situ to look at some of the very interesting atmospheric phenomena that such a geomagnetic equator triggers. This is, of course, of interest to the global community. A modest step was taken when we fired the first round sounding rocket in 1963, a rocket which is hardly 20 kilograms and capable of reaching about 200 kilometers. And one should see this against the most recent developments in the Indian space program, a rocket of more than 400 tons taking off and capable of carrying 2 tons class of payloads. So, but this was the modest beginning, and that's triggered off our space program. While scientific quest was the immediate aim for such an activity, the step was crucial in developing the nucleus of a culture. The large group of persons in diverse fields learned to work together for accomplishing a single objective. This was facilitated by establishing in the vicinity of the Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launching Station, the southernmost tip where the geomagnetic equator passes, a space science and technology center with the objective to develop expertise in a multidisciplinary mode in aerospace engineering, building atmospheric sounding rockets, which was the scientific objective, and also at the same time take up the development of a very modest satellite launcher. The aim was to produce men and women who acquire the capability to do front-ranking research. There was also a clear understanding that this kind of an effort, doing front-ranking research, could lead to interaction with their peers across the world. And these collaborative relationships at the international level and an ability to deal with peers, establishing mutuality can sustain such relationships. These initial endeavors enabled the development of a strong ethos for self-reliance and paved way for the operational space program of the country. Our space program subsequently evolved in 3 different steps. The first, of course, was a step of what one may call as a proof of concept evaluation. That was followed by the establishment of experimental systems to get an end-to-end capability in space area, and finally to establish operational systems that can provide routine services in several areas which are of relevance to the national developmental endeavor. The initiation phase, one of the primary tasks was the evaluation of the efficacy of space systems as either an alternative to the conventional systems or to evaluate their complementary or supplementary role in providing services or inputs to the existing conventional systems. The pioneering satellite instructional television experiment, and most of you are very aware of this particular experiment, was one such step to evaluate the efficacy of the satellite broadcasting system with a vast outreach to provide developmental communications and imparting literacy. It was a unique sociological experiment of this kind anywhere in the world, involving 2,400 villages spread over 6 states of the country and covering about 200,000 people. It was an American satellite ATS-F which was specifically moved over the Indian Ocean for conducting this experiment. Similar studies were done for evaluating the efficacy of imageries taken from space to look at the resources of the country in a timely manner and to provide the status of these resources so that an optimal management strategy could be evolved. In all these studies relating to the initiation phase, use of the foreign space systems, configuration of a suitable ground system which is relevant to our needs, and working closely with the user community within India, they formed the major aspect of looking at the system's capabilities. This phase also witnessed the development of a very modest launcher, the Satellite Launch Vehicle 3. In the second phase, that is the experimental phase, a major exercise was undertaken to create an end-to-end capability for building a space system together with the associated ground system. They were systems with limited capability, realized within the stringent cost and time schedules. But at the same time, these systems were expected to provide that end-to-end capability, thinking of a space system, using the space system for specific end applications, evaluating the efficacy of these applications through the user community, and then to fine-tune the system for the future versions. So this was the broad objective of the experimental era of the India space program. Bhaskara 1 and Bhaskara 2, the first 2 pioneering remote sensing satellites that we built in this country, was the first step in that experimental era, which enabled us to acquire, even though a coarse kind of a resolution of 1 kilometer, imageries from space, use them for several applications like geology, forestry, and so on, transmit this information, process the information, give these products to the user community in the country like the Forest Department of India or the Geological Survey of India, and ultimately work closely with them to see what kind of system we would need ultimately to provide them solutions to their own problems that they look for. Similarly, we also built an experimental communication satellite, the Ariane Passenger Payload Experiment, the APPLE. It is known as the acronym APPLE. It provided a very unique opportunity to develop the technologies, a full-fledged technologies relating to a communication satellite. It carried 2 transponders, several innovative communication experiments, including like facsimile transmission of newspapers. They were carried out in early 80s using the APPLE system. And APPLE, in a sense, paved way for the modern INSAT system that ISRO has built and established. The operational era, which is the third phase and which is the current phase of the Indian space program, is the creation of the major space infrastructure over the last 2 decades. Such infrastructure broadly falls under 2 categories: a system, what we call the Indian National System, which provides services in the area of broadcasting, communications, and meteorology, and a second system, which is the Indian Remote Sensing Satellite System, which provides timely, accurate, and precise information about the natural resources of this country. The INSAT system currently consists of 6 satellites and has a capacity of about 90 transponders, providing services for telecommunications and television broadcasting. The broadcasting capabilities of these satellites is not only used for regular entertainment, but is also used for distance education and developmental communication. In fact, right now, the Gyan Darshan channel, which is being used to broadcast this particular lecture, is done through the INSAT communication transponder so that one could get it in the far-flung reaches of this country, this kind of message. More recently, we have also started using the capabilities of the INSAT system for newer areas of applications, the telemedicine, where we try to really close the urban-rural divide in the context of healthcare for the country, and also for e-governance. The communication capability of the INSAT system has significantly improved the quality and the outreach for the different parts of the India, Northeast, downrange islands, and so on. INSAT has also ushered an era of business communication in the use of the very small aperture terminals, which are used by a number of close user groups like the banking system, Oil India, and many other companies. There are something like 14,000 very small aperture terminals today that operate and provide services in this particular area. And lastly, the INSAT system also provides that much needed information regarding the weather over the country. The 24-hour capability of observation of the weather system, including the development of severe storm system, forms an important component of the INSAT capability. The Indian remote sensing satellite is an excellent example of how the other phase of the space capability, the vantage point of space, has been used in this country for a major societal development and also at the same time making forays in the global arena. Based on the experience of the experimental satellites, the Bhaskara 1 and Bhaskara 2, we went ahead and built a contemporary satellite, IRS-1A, in the period 1982 to 1988. IRS-1A, which was launched in 1988, was comparable to the contemporary satellites that were at that time operating primarily by United States and France. Within 3 years, we put a second satellite of a similar type, the IRS-1B. IRS became the core element of what we call as an integrated development of the natural resources through an institutional framework which we call as the National Natural Resource Management System. And this particular system enables the integration of the space-based data with the conventional data to improve the overall timely and accurate information availability for resource management and decision support. Soon, and today I should say that the IRS data is used in several areas of national development, whether it is related to land management, water resources management, environmental monitoring, forest inventory, coastal management, urban and rural applications, and supporting disaster management requirements. Parallelly, through 1990s, we built the second generation of IRS, which is the IRS-1C and 1D. Why I'm emphasizing this aspect of the second generation is that they were some of the best satellites ever built anywhere in the world. In fact, I should say the complementary sensors that were used on the IRS-1C and 1D made it the most unique satellite system in the world. And several countries started receiving data from this system for their own addressing their own resource needs. In fact, for the first time, the world saw the introduction of a 5-meter resolution camera through the IRS-1C and 1D for the civilian domain. So these certainly made the capability of the Indian satellite system in IRS a worldwide usage community was formed, and today we have almost 12 to 13 countries that receive the data from the IRS, and not only they use it for their own countries but also for the neighboring countries, and this includes countries like United States and Europe. Their systems were also augmented more recently by the launch of 2 ocean observation satellites. Particularly the IRS-P4, which is currently operational, is providing extensive services not only in the physical oceanography but also in the biological oceanography in areas like fishing, improving the schools of fish catch and so on. The most recent development, of course, on the Earth observation program of our country has been the launch of the Technological Experiment Satellite, the TES, with a resolution which is 1 meter, a preserve of a very select number of countries, probably 1 or 2 countries in the world. So India has again joined a select club by launching this 1 meter system. So this one constellation of nearly 5 satellites today has become not only a backbone infrastructure for looking at our natural resources, but also has become one of the primary sources of remote sensing data anywhere in the world. So the global community today uses, and I can say it is not out of place to say that 25% of the data that is being sold across the world in the commercial domain from our remote sensing satellite comes from the Indian remote sensing satellites. So it is against this backdrop that we have been discussing in the last 1 or 2 years with several institutions about the possibility of integrating many of the very significant efforts in the distance education that has happened and also in developmental communication, and whether to come out with a system that could provide a kind of an important element in further expanding and strengthening the system that we have already established. The thought that is being given is to launch a satellite dedicated to meet the requirements of the total educational sector. The premise for such an initiative is the enormous background work already carried out by institutions like IGNOU and other open universities, the initiatives of other government agencies like NCERT, SIETs, and so on. So what we are trying to say is that you have these many elements in place. Some of them use satellites, some of them use other types of technologies. You have, for example, the primary education being met by SIET in regional language and Gyanadarshan channel. The secondary education, which is met by curriculum-based broadcast in Hindi and English and Gyanadarshan channel. The higher education, that is the consortium of educational communication, EMRC, AVRC, UGC in Hindi and English and Gyanadarshan channel. Distance education, IGNOU, the curriculum-based broadcast in Hindi and English. The non-formal education, general Doordarshan programs on health, agriculture, women, children, and all that. So what this kind of an effort, which to some extent is fragmented or the synergy could be created, would it be meaningful to have a dedicated satellite and an appropriate ground system, a model, a central authority, which could then deal with the totality of these, but with, of course, the elements being where they are, but providing a kind of a synergy between the several initiatives that we have discussed, and also further to expand this. EdSat is being configured in this context. The EdSat has been specifically configured to meet the requirement of education at all the levels, to meet the regional requirements of languages. We use what you call as a high power Ku band transponder. The current transponders that we use are primarily in the extended C band. The Ku band transponder beaming to specific areas, it can help not only in providing region-specific, locale-specific lessons, but it also could be used in optimizing the cost in terms of the ground segment, smaller dishes, and more cost-effective elements in receiving and delivering the messages. The satellite will also have national coverage beams in Ku and extended C-band to continue the ongoing developmental communication activities initiated already. Different modes of education delivery is possible. Of course, you are very familiar, the television broadcast alone, radio broadcast, asymmetric internet through television receive-only terminals, voice chat on internet, webcam as return link, nighttime loading at receiving end, online education through internet. So several of these could be facilitated again with a space segment. Then the establishment of such a system will need a cooperative national effort by several central and state departments. Providing the satellite alone will not be enough. The ground system has to be in place, and effective mechanisms for utilization of the system would be required. The most important challenge will be that of content generation, which has to be done by the educationists. Substantial experience exists in this area, and IGNOU is a shining example of what the pioneering steps have been taken in this connection. We have to positively build upon the past experience to come up with a joint activity to effectively meet the challenge. I would invite the academic institutions, NGOs, and all concerned to join us in this effort of educating the nation. In conclusion, over the last 4 decades, we have learned the realization of space systems, whether it is a launcher or a satellite, demands highest level of profession. which is an inevitable requirement to achieve economic and social progress in the face of intense global competition. Such unique capabilities throw open innovative possibilities and opportunities to deal with some of the major developmental issues in the country, one of the crucial area being the education. In this context, I may say that when it comes to education, based on the experience so far in the use of space system, we can talk of a dedicated satellite EduSat. When it comes to rural development, extensive use of satellite system and developmental communication could give us a concept of a GramSat. When it comes to the question we have recently initiated, as I mentioned, health care related activities, the telemedicine, and there is tremendous interest among the hospitals in the country to provide an outreach to the rural in the context of medicine and health care. One can think of a health sat. And then, of course, the country is plagued with several types of natural disasters. To provide unique type of support to such disaster management efforts, one can think of a disaster sat. So these are the kind of concept. The space program, after the level of maturity that it has reached in terms of realizing the hardware and also having conducted several path-breaking experiments, is now on the threshold of developing sociologically oriented system, something which is very unique anywhere in the world. And that is the way we are trying to now lead. And if ISRO is able to operationalize along with all the educational community, including IGNOU, the educational satellite program in the country, I will consider it as a fitting tribute to Professor Ram Reddy. I take this opportunity to thank Indira Gandhi Open National University, the Vice Chancellors and others for having given me this honor to share with all of you perspective of our space program and its implication to an extremely important area of national endeavor, the education. Thank you. In this context, I may say that when it comes to education, based on the experience so far in the use of space system, we can talk of a dedicated satellite EduSat. When it comes to rural development, extensive use of satellite system and developmental communication could give us a concept of a GramSat. when it comes to the question we have recently initiated, as I mentioned, health care related activities, the telemedicine. And there is tremendous interest among the hospitals in the country to provide an outreach to the rural in the context of medicine and health care. One can think of a health sat. And then, of course, the country is plagued with several types of natural disasters. To provide unique type of support to such disaster management efforts, one can think of a disaster sat. So these are the kind of concept. The space program, after the level of maturity that it has reached in terms of realizing the hardware and also having conducted several path-breaking experiments, is now on the threshold of developing sociologically oriented systems, something which is very unique anywhere in the world. And that is the way we are trying to now lead. And if ISRO is able to operationalize along with all the educational community, including IGNOU, the educational satellite program in the country, I will consider it as a fitting tribute to Professor Ram Reddy. I take this opportunity to thank Indira Gandhi Open National University, the Vice Chancellors and others for having given me this honor to share with all of you perspective of our space program and its implication to an extremely important area of national endeavor, the education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for so lucidly explaining the intricacies of information technology, which, if I may admit, sometimes seem very complicated to us as laypersons. We assure you, sir, that at IGNOU, we shall try to make all efforts to prove worthy of the investments made in us as regards information technology and the trust that has been reposed in us to reach to the disadvantaged. Sir, we shall now open the session for question-answer interactive sessions.
This is Dr. Ghosh from Kolkata. Greetings from everyone at Kolkata Regional Center. In fact, we use information technology quite a bit in dissemination of higher education as well as for organizing the student support services. Now, we have a lot many centers at the rural areas, and there is a definite information technology resource gap between the urban and rural sector. The main problem in this regard seems to be the traditional inertia. Now, my question is how we can break this traditional inertia, number one. And number two, while we shall be organizing the student support services using this connectivity, what kind of training you feel we should impart to the study center functionaries or the functionaries working at the rural and remote areas so that they can adapt themselves to this situation, because this is quite a challenge for open and distance learning system. Over.
I'm speaking from IGNOU Regional Center, Shillong. My name is A.S. Goha. Sir, my question is that you have mentioned regarding those neo-literates who can now go to the National Open School. In other words, there is a distinct connection between the literacy mission and the open system of education. Do you think there can be more collaboration between the National Literacy Mission and the open universities of our country?
This is Dr. Soundravalli, Regional Director, Chennai. We would like to ask a few questions. Question number one, what are the distinct features that make the EduSat different from other educational channels now available in the country? Question number two, how is it proposed to cater to the educational needs of each state in the regional languages through the EduSat? Question number three, whether the EduSat signals have got direct-to-home facility so that the outreach is high.
Currently, what we are trying to do is to allot a certain transponder, like for Jnanadarshan, we have a extended C-band transponder, which is used to broadcast all over the country, and this is received. In the case of EduSat, it really builds upon the experiences of using space systems so far by the different institutions in this country. And one thing is very clear, as I mentioned earlier, that we need to bring in the locale specific requirements and also regional specific requirements in this kind of educational system, whether it is of course related to education to the rural masses or illiterates, or whether it is for secondary or primary education or for higher education. So the concept here is to develop a satellite with beaming capability. In fact, it was asked how the individual states would look at it. Now the whole idea ultimately is to have beaming capability so that it could be regionally beamed, so that those particular beams or those particular channels will carry programs only for that region or for that particular state. So this can be configured as a part of a satellite design. So that will be the one fun thing which will be unique. And also when you try to make beams which are very much specifically addressed to certain areas, obviously you narrow down the width of the beam, and when you put the same power into such a beam, obviously the received power on the ground will be much higher. Therefore you can use much simpler systems, much smaller antenna, and therefore there is a tremendous gain in terms of the system improvement in the system complexity on the ground, and thereby making it cost effective. There is the second part of it. And of course this will not obviate the need for national channels, and therefore there is a broad beam in KU band as well as in C band which will provide many of the requirements as it's currently provided. Now what it will really transform in the context is, one, it will help you to fine-tune the system from whatever you have learned currently and the inadequacies of the existing system, particularly in hardwares. And then the second one would be that in synergy we will be able to bring all of them. In fact, if you really look at currently, you have to look at one of the INSAT which brings in the DD program related to the women and the health. You have to look at the Doordarshan channel, that one channel for some of these kind of programs. And then there are other channels of the satellite located elsewhere which are used for other programs. So if you want to have a choice at one particular point, and then you want to redistribute that particular choice which addresses the total educational segment and the requirements related to that, probably the EDSAT kind of a system will be optimal. This also incidentally would lead to a ground configuration of a management of the system which would bring in much more synergy between the various efforts that are currently going on by different agencies in the country. So we need to create a national system which will take care of and use the EDSAT in an optimal fashion. So that now that framework, institutional framework that we need to create on the ground to service this will be a second component. And of course all the questions related to contents and all others which are very critical ultimately for the success of this idea will have to be of course taken note of by the educationists. Most important thing is to produce programs, and that is the most challenging aspect of it. You have to produce ones which they will be interested and they will be in a position to assimilate. But if that part is addressed, and that is one that's going to be the most challenging, I feel that we should, because the technology itself is not something they are afraid of. They have to get the right message, and it has to be configured suitably. That is where it is. I can answer all these questions by sending it in mail. Maybe at this point I think it would be appropriate to stop the thing. Thank you.
Shortly, we shall have the presidential remarks by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Shri Vijay Kapoor Ji. Vijay Kapoor Ji holds a master degree in mathematics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. He was a visiting fellow at Queen Elizabeth House, Oxford, UK. He joined the Indian Administrative Services in 1961, and from 1977 to 1983, he worked in the United Nations at several different major portfolios. He held several key positions in Delhi administration, and it was in 1998 that he was appointed the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi. Sir.
Dr. Kasturirangan and friends, when I was approached to be present at this lecture, I readily agreed. I readily agreed for three reasons. The first is that I had a brief association with Professor Ram Reddy, and I have seen him develop this great project of IGNOU on a land donated by a village panchayat. I have seen it grow into a major institution which now subserves the educational needs of over 750,000 people. The second reason why I agreed was that the speaker was to be Dr. Kasturi Rangan. As he mentioned, I had the opportunity to be associated with him when I was secretary in the Ministry of Defense, and we had initiated some hardware construction programs in some of our public sector undertakings like the Hindustan Aeronautics and Bharat Electronics. I am happy that those efforts have reached a stage of fruition. In fact, we are very happy the way the space program has been expanded and how both the remote sensing as well as the communication part of it has really reached a stage of development of which we can all be proud. And we know that all this has happened under the stewardship of Professor Kasturi Rangan over the last many years. So I was very happy to, I was looking forward to listening to him. I knew that his lecture would be erudite. He has laid before you the great menu of technologies which are available, and that menu is expanding. He has also addressed the issues of education and the symbiosis between the two subjects that he has handled. I would not like to add much to it because you have heard him and you have also heard some very interesting interaction which followed after the lecture. But I would only say that the prime concern of IGNOU has to be education. And the communication technology which is available is only a means, is only one of the aids. So the primary concern, the focus has to be on education. And I would say that when there is highly centralized dispensing of education, then one has to think of the correctives which need to be applied all the time to keep the whole educational arrangement in a balance. You have to look at the local end, both in the development of course material. You have to ensure that you provide adequate interaction between the educators and the persons who are being educated. Today, of course, there are technical possibilities of increasing that interaction. Dr. Kasturi Rangan has made mention of many of them, and I'm sure that this new satellite, EduSat, would also be a great facilitator in interaction. But the other aspects of the substance of education, I think you have to keep in mind, because when the dispensing of education is very centralized, then there are likely to be some casualties. And those casualties, I think, must be avoided. Dr. Kasturi Rangan has spoken about the great diversity of India. I think that's our heritage, that's our richness. We should not let that diversity be hurt or reduced in any manner. Our resort to local languages, I would not stop at regional languages. I would say the local dialects. It is the local dialects which provide richness to India. The local idiom, I think that has to be understood and that has to be retained. The second aspect, of course, which I have been observing of late is that there is a great rush for vocational education as a vehicle for employment. I have seen it in Delhi since we started the Indraprasth University, which is an affiliating university. There has been a mushrooming of a very large number of institutions which provide vocational education. So they are able to attract a lot of people. There is a great rush for admissions. And then they are able to charge fairly high fees. So these institutions which are affiliated to the Indraprasth University are fairly well provided for. They have the means. But on the other hand, I see the state of our premier university, the Delhi University, where the core subjects are taught. Physics, mathematics, philosophy, literature, languages. And there is a great paucity of means. And I see an imbalance coming in which the core subjects are getting relegated to a somewhat lesser focus. I think this is this danger, which we have to guard against. Substantial education, I think, will still be through the teaching of core subjects. The other day we had a seminar in the Rajnivas on quality of education in Delhi schools. It was a day-long discussion. So we heard a lot of people, educational experts, people from the schools, principals, and various people. So our conclusion was that it is the quality of mathematics education and the quality of language education which has of late suffered a setback. I would lay great emphasis on imparting good language education, because I think the genius of man in a cumulative way translates itself into the evolution of a good language. I think that is where the orderliness of mind gets reflected in the best possible way. So it is these aspects of education, I think, which should receive attention. Dr. Kasturirangan also spoke about continuing education, which I think is again very, very important, because there is a vast section in our society, particularly in the urban areas, who are keen on continuing education, not so much as a means of employment or as a means to seeking upgradation in employment, but basically to seek improvement in the quality of life. And that opportunity, I think, should be provided. We do not have a system of institutions of continuing education, as you have in the UK, where the counties and the boroughs run these colleges of continuing education, in which people from various sections of society, housewives, employed people, children, they just come and attend courses which they think would be rewarding to them, whether they are courses in language, courses in appreciation of music, or all manner of courses. I think we need to take initiatives in this regard. If IGNOU would have any interest in doing something in the area of continuing education, I can promise to put them in touch with our various local bodies. And I think if in Delhi we can start a good system of continuing education, that would be a step forward. Friends, I didn't intend to take so much of your time after a very absorbing and very rewarding lecture that we heard. I convey my best wishes to IGNOU, and I take this opportunity to pay homage to the late Professor Ram Reddy. Thank you very much.
As indebted as we are to the two eminent personalities who have graced the occasion today, Dr. Kasturirangan and Mr. Vijay Kapoor, there is a lot of behind-the-scenes activity which goes on to make a function like this a success, and which must be acknowledged. It is to this end that Professor V.R. Jagannathan of the School of Humanities will propose a vote of thanks.
Esteemed Speaker of the Day, Dr. Kasturirangan, Honorable Lieutenant Vijay Kapoor Sahab, Pro-Vice Chancellors Pant Sahab, Professor Garg, esteemed audience here as well as in our regional centers. It's my privileged pleasure to propose a vote of thanks today. And before we thank the people for their contribution, we should not forget to pay obeisance to Professor Ram Reddy, in whose name this particular series of lectures has been instituted. Thank him we can't, because he is not physically present among us, but he has been the beacon light, the source of distance education in India. As founder, Vice Chancellor of this university, and also as a chairman of the UGC later, he had put in lots of efforts, and he has left a legacy of distance education in this country, and it will be the best kind of tribute from us to him if we can assure ourselves that we will keep up this legacy and see that distance education flourishes in this country. Our thanks go to Dr. Kasturi Rangan for his most thought-provoking and enlightening words. And this lecture, the 7th lecture in this series today, is a departure from the last 6 we had, because in the last 6 it was usually people who came from the field of distance education and talked about what they are doing and about what we would be doing. And in this sense, there was some kind of a mutual praise and a mutual commendation for each of us. So there was the tone of Aho Rupam, Aho Swaram. But today we have a lecture on a different topic, an entirely different topic. It's not exactly distance education, but the input for distance education. In that respect, today's lecture has been very meaningful because ISRO and IGNOU have both been working for the same goals, I should say, dissemination of knowledge. We are trying to take education to the farthermost corner of the country, and through ISRO, they are trying to go into and get from the entire space, the physical space, the kind of information that will be useful for the society. So in that sense, whatever IGNOU might be doing, it would have to rely on the infrastructural facilities made available by ISRO, and we should be very thankful to him for making the suggestion about an EduSat for the country, and also perhaps suggesting that IGNOU should take the leading role in running that EduSat, and we should thank him for the kind of confidence that he has reposed in us. It has been a dream, a cherished dream for us, and if it comes to reality, in fact, that would be the best achievement of today's lecture, in fact, I should say. We should also try to thank him for the few other suggestions that he has made. It's not only outreach, but the quality of education which is also very important. And in his words, there is the tacit understanding, there is the tacit cognizance of the fact that media education perhaps is quality education. This is something which we haven't been saying much, rather very positively, because we have been rather defensively saying that distance education can also give quality education. But sir, we are very happy to say that you have talked about the excellence of education through the use of media, and we would try to strive to achieve that goal as you have rightly suggested. We should thank COL, the Commonwealth of Learning, for the initial initiative in starting this series of lectures and for the initial grant as well. And it is with that grant that we started this series, and it has been continuing very well. And we should again thank them for the support they are giving for this dissemination of distance education in this country as well as in the global region. We would like to thank Lieutenant Governor Vijay Kapoor Saab for the occasion that he has provided us by presiding over today's function, though he didn't have to travel much to come to this place, and I would sometimes suggest that he travels to IGNOU and see us in campus, on campus in situ, and see how we are working there. And we also thank him for the enlightening words that he has said about the current state of affairs in the field of education. And his ideas are worth pondering over, and his suggestions are worth emulating. We assure you, sir, that we would be benefited from what you have said today. I would like to thank you on my behalf, on behalf of the organizers, the convener, on behalf of the university community, the audience who are in fact the most significant factor of any such lecture, your active participation. Though this particular hall, which is rather oversized, has not been filled to the brim, I am very certain that all our regional centers and those study centers linked to the TDCC will have a rather good number of audience, and we would like to thank all of them for being part of this today's program. Thank you. Thank you. Organs of the university who have contributed to making the program a success. The EMPC for their coverage, as well as for the coverage